Good afternoon. Happy opening day. Welcome to the Environment and Transportation Committee, Subcommittee of the Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Open Spaces. We will be going over one, two, three, four, five, actually six bills today. One bill, HB 1470, that did not make the list. I do apologize that we worked on, gosh, what are the days? Tuesday, that we worked on Tuesday, and I think we can work it out. And so I want to, Patrick, if it's okay, let's begin with 1470, and then we'll move after that.
And we do have the commission here with us.
Yep,
I see
yep,
Nick
they're here.
and Lisa. I don't know if Eric's here, but
Nick is here, and so is Lisa.
all right, we don't have a reprint. We only have an amendment.
Yep.
If Meredith could show that.
Meredith, can you pull up the amendment, please, ma'am?
Yep, pulling it up now, sorry.
All right, page one is essentially the same as we had the other day. If we could go down, we rewrote the added language a little bit. Here we go. Roman 1 and Roman 2 are the same. Go back up a little bit. Well, I got it here, Meredith. Roman 1 talks about for a clearing or cutting violation in a critical area, Prince George's, they have to record a lien on a property subject to the violation within 90 days of issuing a notice of the violation to the property owner, and then it's required to have the lien to enforce and hold the current property owner liable for cutting or clearing of the trees. And then Roman 3 is where we have the new language. If the lien is not recorded as required, then the county may only pursue an enforcement action against the previous owner, may not seek the remedies against the current property owner, is required to perform any restoration that has to be required that is not performed by the previous property owner, and then may enter the property subject to the violation for restoration or mitigation purposes. And some of that language came out of the special section below, but the rest of it was in the previous amendment.
And Patrick, just to clarify, we kept A, B, and C2 of the section 2.
C1. C2
sorry.
moved into the statutory language.
Okay, so then I'm sorry. So 2 became C.
C2 in the uncodified language was moved up
That's right.
and became Roman 3, 3A.
Understood. Okay, I just want to make sure it was.
So we didn't take it out of the bill, we just moved it to the statute.
Yes, I understood. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. I just want to make sure we covered all the bases. Delegate Ziegler.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Chair. So I think that sounds great. The only question I have was, I just want to walk through what happens if the county, pursues the previous owner, I guess, for money, and they're allowed to enter your property to mitigate the problem. What would that be like for the current owner? Could you end up having your property completely changed in a way that would, for example, completely obstruct the water view you bought the property for? Or, I guess that's the main thing I'm thinking of. Like somebody cut down trees. Like, would the current owner know about this and understand it before they bought the property?
I guess that's what the lien is for. The lien is the alarm to say, hey, this past owner did these things and did not mitigate it. And so then the owner can decide, I think from there is when the procedures would go into place, if I'm correct, Patrick. I would know it. And then if I decided that I'm going to buy the property anyway, I think this build then takes place, if I'm correct.
So the lien has to be on it before it goes on the market?
The lien goes on it within 90 days after the violation is set, a notice of the violation is sent.
I'm just worried about that period. Do you see what I'm saying? Where like you could sell the property before the lien was
But I
put
guess
on
before
it.
you would even, let's say your property is not even for sale, you have a lien on your property because you've illegally cut down and trimmed trees. So you'd have the lien on the property anyway, as I would, I guess, understand it. And the county would be able to go after you. The commission could support the county and going after you to mitigate. But then let's say you don't mitigate, and I'm assuming if I then decide to sell the property, I would see that it was a lien and I can decide that I'm not buying this property because I don't want to take this all into consideration and have to take this on myself. Or I can go into it knowing that there's a lien and then the lien is just the alert to then go through the potential steps. Because it sounds like with this process, the county government would be potentially going after these people anyway.
I'm just worried about the 3 months. Like I get notice of a violation, I immediately sell the property.
Well,
Uh,
the
That's
90 days came
immediately.
from, I believe it came from the amendments worked out with the commission. Maybe they have
right.
better insight into what happened within the 90 days.
Nick or Lisa, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I believe that the way it's written is that even like if the lien wasn't there, it creates this opportunity where the county still goes after the previous owner to take care of it. If for some reason they can't get to the previous owner, it's still on the county to go back in and put the plantings back in on the site. So there still is sort of a catch-all that if their lien's not in place, there's another process to still go after the previous property owner for violation.
All right, thank you.
Is that good, Delegate Ziegler, or do you have
Yeah,
further?
I
I just
mean,
want to make sure you're good.
yeah, I just think there may be a place where you could unwittingly buy something that is going to change and you don't know about it. But I mean, I think this is overall a very good fix. So, yeah,
Well, can I clarify? Because what if within the 90 days, your point about losing the view that you saw on day one that sounds like a possibility to me. And Nick, I get your point about how they wouldn't be able to go after the current owner for mitigation and the like. But could they possibly lose a view that they thought they were buying?
You're on mute.
Am I on mute still, or can you hear me?
There you go now.
Okay. I think that, I mean, I certainly think that's a potential that could pop up, but I think I'm not really quite sure, in that situation. I think that if they have the violation would have to be mitigated for. Not quite sure if there's a solution. I feel like the lien is the best option. I don't know, yeah, I would say
I
the
mean,
lien.
I guess I think what I hear the delegate saying is I'm buying this property based on like an appearance or a view after, these trees have been, for instance, either trimmed or cleared illegally. I don't necessarily know. Let's say the lien is not on the property yet because maybe they're still doing some work or trying to enforce, and then somehow I buy the property because it's this beautiful view, and then I find out there's this lien, and then while the county would have to mitigate, they would have to mitigate in a way that takes away the very reason why I bought the property to begin with. Is that correct, Delegate Ziegler? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
yes, and I guess what I'm saying is, could we shorten that 90 days? Just because there is quite a long period during which you could sell your property and somebody could unwittingly buy it without realizing they're walking into a whole who knows what.
Nick?
I was going to say one other thing I can say is though that if there were that situation there could be a negotiation with the county, with our office, because there is always opportunities, if that was a scenario, to work with the county to figure out if there are other offsite locations, or if there's other sites on the buffer to do the plantings.
That's great.
Opportunity. So it's not that there's this end-all situation. There could be other solutions in that scenario that we could work with the county.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm sorry, it might have been discussed in the language, but if in the event a lien is not recorded, is there any remedy?
Yes. And so that was actually in the original bill that the new owners would not be liable.
Okay.
Isn't that
Okay,
correct,
Thank you.
Patrick?
If the lien is not filed, Delegate Stein, then under this amendment, they could only go after the previous owner
Yep,
who committed the violation.
not the current owner.
Okay, but so they can still go after the previous owner.
Yes, yes,
If
yes.
the lien isn't recorded.
We just don't want to put it on the current owner.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Pro Tem? Okay, Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. Were we gonna change the 5 acres, or I can't remember what we decided on that.
I think we decided to keep the 5 acres as is and keep the bill to this specific situation to help resolve this situation. And I think the commission, I think we talked about in another meeting about kind of looking into this and seeing maybe if it's necessary next year to bring a statewide bill to Delegate Ziegler's
Great.
point. I think she said this does happen. And so that gives them the time in the interim to look through this
And
process.
Madam Chair, the commission has agreed to send us a letter agreeing to that
Yes.
meetings over the interim.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that reminder, Patrick.
Thank
Any other questions, Delegate Ruth? Oh,
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. I think that what you just said was pretty much zeroed in on what my question or comments were going to be, that this legislation and these amendments are very specific to one case. And so rather than go get all into the weeds all over the place, I think that we should just be certain that this is dealing with that one situation. If the critical areas is happy with this remedy, then I think we should move forward with it.
Are you moving the amendment, sir?
I am.
Is there a second? Second. We have a first and a second. Is there any other discussions, any other questions, any other clarifications? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to the amendments? Can I have a motion to move the bill as amended?
So moved.
As amended.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Any further questions or clarifications or discussion? All in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you guys so much, and I want to thank the committee, but most importantly, thank the commission for being on and helping us work through this issue, and thank you for your for working on this in the interim. You know, I think it's never a matter of if, but when, and I'm sure this is potentially going to come up again. So thank you for all your input on there for helping us resolve this issue in Prince George's County. And I did send the amended bill that Patrick sent, as well as the amendments to the delegation chairs of Prince George's County and for the sponsor, as well as Montgomery County. Hopefully they'll check off on this. And for now, we have moved favorable. And hopefully they'll get something back to us either today or early tomorrow saying that they approve this bill as we have made the changes. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Let's go to Patrick, let's go to 282. Let's go to the bills that we've already done.
Well, if we go to Kristen's bill first, we can get her.
Oh, I'm
out of
sorry,
here.
Kristen. Sure. Oh, yes, there we go. SB 162.
162, yeah, this one is pretty straightforward. It's repealing obsolete provisions that are in the article that relate to governing the regulation of cantaloupes by the Department of Agriculture.
So strange. So strange. Yes. I try to Google a little bit of like why, like maybe why there wasn't a monopoly on cantaloupes for the state. And then I saw something come up about salmonella for cantaloupe last year. So with that, does anyone have any other questions about this very straightforward repeal? Yes, Delegate Foley.
Maybe, Madam Chair, maybe we should outlaw cantaloupes if there's like salmonella in them. That's like pretty bad.
Well, there's salmonella in a lot of things lately.
I know, but how would you know if it was in the, like, you can't wash the inside of a cantaloupe. Anyway,
You can. I think it's something about how it's grown and whatever it's in the soil ends up being in the, well, anyway, I don't know. But
okay.
any
The
other?
salmonella came from Mexico, cantaloupe.
Oh, okay.
And they're also known as musk melons.
Musk melons. There is your ag educational word for the day. Unlike mollusk, bivalve. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I lowered my hand. I was just going to ask if I could move favorable on the
You sure
bill
can. Is there a second?
rather than having
Second.
a honeydew conversation.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Bill moves favorably. Thank you, Kristen. Patrick, can we go back to 282?
Do you want to start at 103? Go in order?
I just wanted to go through the bills that we're already familiar with to just
Okay,
get
well, 282 is the only cross file, or the only cross file that we passed. 282 is one of Senator Simon Ayer's Service Member Act bills. We had two of them. This is the one in this subcommittee. It's Senator Simon Ayer has offered an amendment to conform it to House Bill 494 as we sent it out of the House. And that just added a couple of licenses that they had forgotten in drafting.
That's right. Is there a motion to move the bill to be amended to the House bill?
So moved.
moved.
The amendments.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, we have moved the bill to be amended.
Move to bill as amended, Madam Chair.
Second.
Second, all in favor as the bill is amended, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it. We have moved the bill to the House version. SB 1028, and there is an additional amendment to this bill.
Well, I sent a reprint. I didn't see it on Meredith's thing. Do you have the reprint on this bill, Meredith?
Which bill?
It's SB 1028.
No, I don't think I received a reprint for that one.
So if you go
Can
to,
we send it, Patrick?
it's in the Senate file on, I'm sorry.
Be the
on,
last email I sent you, Meredith.
Okay, hold on.
And with having two separate amendments, the Senate amendment and then this amendment kind of pulls it back. It's sort of strange. I'm not sure why they did that.
Changing it from gas powered to motorized.
And then they changed this, a new amendment changes it back to gas powered. I think we might want to check it out with the chairman of HCO across the hall, the sponsor of the House bill. See if she has any thoughts.
I'm happy to send her a quick message. But we can discuss it and just bring it up. I noticed that that it changed from gasoline to motorized, and then they give a definition of motorized, but that does not include a vessel powered by an electric motor. But this really just has to do with gasoline powered, motorized.
But it takes that out and brings back to gasoline powered. And
Have you found the bill, Meredith?
No, Patrick, the last email I have from you is 282. Can you
Okay, so if you go to the floor system under the Senate bill, it should be in there as 1028.
Okay, hold on. I'm sharing my screen now. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, Meredith, I just sent it to you again.
Thank you. Delegate Boyce, you're muted if you're talking. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just talked to the chair, and they, because the industry and the Coast Guard negotiated the bill as is, we should be conforming the Senate bill to the House bill.
I move to conform the Senate bill to the House bill
Second.
and move the bill.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so we moved the bill to conform to the House version, and the chair of HGO thanks you all very much. Let's go to, because we're doing SB 335 as discussion only. Can we go to SB 103, please, Patrick?
Yep. Sorry, give me a second here.
Nope, take your time.
We're bouncing around. Oh, this is a boating accidents bill from Senator Simon Ayer. And it simply requires, your current law, you're required, for other accidents other than death, disappearance, or serious injury, you're supposed to report if there's personal injury or property damage to the department within 10 days. Then that specifies that property damage includes damage to navigational aid markers, lights, or identifiers.
Thank you. And if I'm correct, there are no amendments to this bill.
There are no amendments.
And the, if I read correctly, the DNR supports this bill.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. There any questions about SB 103? Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. So Patrick, it says, and I probably should ask this question in the hearing, but we were moving pretty fast. Says property damage to a vessel includes damage to navigational aid markers, lights, identifiers. How about like pound nets or fish nets or anything like that? Because a lot of times these boats in the middle of the night run through these pound nets, even though they have lights on them. And there's a lot of damage and
Well, that's the current law.
And personal injuries as well. So I'm just,
that would be covered under the current law. I would assume that damaging a pound net, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, not cheap,
no.
Would be considered property damage. And of course, you said personal injury. That's spelled out right here. That's the current law.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is current law. Is that what you're saying, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions about SB 103? Can I have a motion to move the bill favorable?
Move the bill favorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of SB 103, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you so much. And Delegate Jacobs, thank you for the clarifying question. And so now we'll go to SB 335. And I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, Patrick. I was just trying to
Oh, no, that's fine.
try to be efficient with the time. So SB 335 is for discussion only. We did not move the House version, given the testimony that had come from not only DNR, but from other folks. And so I want to bring up the bill and have a discussion. And I see, I think it's Assistant Secretary Paul Pedito, and I see Emily Wilson on here, so we can have a good, thorough discussion about Canada geese bag limits. Can we bring up the bill, please? The amended bill. Meredith.
I don't have that one.
This is just a Senate third reader she's asking for. There's no
Oh.
House amendments.
No,
Okay, give me 1 second.
we didn't pass the House bill. Okay. Patrick, can you go through the bill, starting from the beginning, and then we'll take questions.
Well, you can scroll down, Meredith. Basically, the bill just simply says that there's two different Canadian geese populations in the state, the migratory and the what do they call it?
President.
Resident. Thank you. And they are managed very differently. The migratory is much rarer. The resident is really damaging. They can cause damage, and there's a lot of them. And you are allowed to hunt a lot more of them than you are of the migrant for more days and more birds taken. The seasons do overlap, but the areas where they hang out pretty much don't for the most part. So basically, the bill says that during the migratory season, which is 30 days, the bag limit will be the same for all Canada geese statewide. The bill actually, I think, limits that down a little bit, and takes out Western Maryland from the reduction. But that still does reduce the number of resident geese that would be able to be taken by hunters.
Okay. And if we can
And
get
if DNR has anything to add or
yes, I'd like
any
them to add,
subtleties.
because there was this question about the ability or inability to distinguish from one or the other. So where's Petito?
I'm right here, Madam Chair.
Hi, please weigh in.
Yeah, no one can distinguish these birds, even if you have them in hand. They are genetically the same species. The only difference is that the resident population birds do not return to their northern breeding grounds for a variety of reasons, mostly related to the fact that they were born here and they were raised by adults who never made that trip, so they don't have that affinity. So they are the same birds. They are, despite the fact that the resident birds do not migrate, they are regulated by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as a migratory bird. And there are some populations of the resident birds throughout the Atlantic Flyway, which is, Canada to Florida, that they move about in the flyway. You'll have birds in Pennsylvania that'll come to Maryland temporarily and then they'll move back. So there is some movement there. So that's sort of that's the nuts and bolts of resident population versus Atlantic migratory population.
I guess I'm trying to clarify before we take questions, the change in the bill that makes this, I guess, more acceptable to DNR versus before.
Yeah, so
I'm confused.
Well, I mean, the most important thing for us is the sunset, because we're codifying, the seasons and bag limits, and There are very few examples of that in the natural resources article. I think the sunset, frankly, gives us a chance to show, one, there's a new modeling provision in place for Canada geese across the flyways. And there's a lot of new technology. There are much smaller GPS transmitters. They're more accessible in terms of price point. And there are a number of studies that will allow us to put a much finer point on the travels of these birds, not just Canada geese, but all migratory birds. So that in a couple of years, we will have a sort of a brighter line here. We're confident in our data, but at the end of the day, this sort of threads a needle, particularly with the sunset provision in place.
Okay, thank you so much. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you. And I put my hand up a long time ago. I don't have a question. I just
I
wanted
know
to
you did, but
express.
I wanted to
Well,
have.
no, I, before you asked for questions, I just wanted to express my support for this bill. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I would love to keep those geese out of the death zone, as the sponsors called it. And I also wanted to report my seatmate, who had a lot of questions about Charles County, felt decent, fine about the bill after those were answered. So I didn't know if that was a concern with this committee, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you very much. I support the bill.
Delegate Ruth.
Thank you so much. And Delegate Guyton just answered one of my questions, which was about Charles County and what the situation was there. The other question is, and maybe you answered this, and I'm not sure, but the DNR letter says that there could be hunter confusion. I think it was the fact that it would be 30 of the 80 days would be different, and I just wondered if you could address that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Dale. Sorry, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Yeah, there are going to be, it's sort of going to be this on again, off again. Arguably it's a 110-day season for the folks who hunt those resident population birds on the west side of the line, counting the early September season. So they will have to pay attention during that 30-day window. They can still hunt. So I think that's important to remember. They're not being foreclosed the opportunity to go hunting. They will just have to stop at one bird each. And, frankly, there's a lot of examples of that in the fish and wildlife business where, the participants have to pay attention to the sort of finer point details when they're out there. So that doesn't, it doesn't scare us off necessarily.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, could I ask one?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Madam Chair, if I could call on Lindsay Thompson and ask
Absolutely.
what the impact would be on agriculture.
Lindsay, are you there?
Yes. Yep. Thank you. So thanks for the question. Maryland grain producers actually did not take a position on this bill specifically because, as the Assistant Secretary said, outside of the migratory season, they would still be able to harvest the migratory limit. So from a crop damage perspective, they would still have the tools to harvest the resident geese if they were causing a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Delegate Jacobs. Delegate Foley, did you have your hand up?
I took it down, Madam Chair.
Okay. Delegate Jacobs.
All right now. So while Paul's on here, I just for clarification. There's a total of 110 days on the resident goose season, correct?
Correct. There's rounding a little bit, there's a 30-day first split and an 80-day.
But I mean, it's total of 110 days.
Correct.
They're allowed to kill 5 per day. Harvest 5 per day for those 110 days, or currently.
Correct.
Okay, so under this bill, they would have 80 days that they could harvest 5 per day, and 30 days that they would be the same as across the river which next year is going to be 1 per day. So for 30 days would be 1, but for 80 days, it would still be 5 in that particular area.
That's correct.
Charles County. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. I think that clarifies a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other questions? And this bill was discussion only. Any other questions? Any further discussion?
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
I brought this up in the hearing because we didn't know it when I did my bill earlier in the session. But I believe if I'm not mistaken, that there were a couple birds harvested in that Charles County area that had those radios, GPS radios or something on them. Paul, is that correct? And then you knew that they were actually Atlantic population and not resident population. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's not exactly what we have. I mean, there's again, the resident population and AP populations extend all the way from, Hudson Bay in northern Quebec down to Florida. And there are definitely AP birds that occasionally show up on the RP side. In part because it's not a perfect science in terms of trying to find enforceable geographic boundaries. Um, but the flyways keep a very fine eye on that, right? This isn't just Maryland monitoring those birds that are occasionally taken on the other side of the line. This is our federal partners as well as all of the other states and provincial scientists. So we do get, band recoveries and or transmitter data that show these birds kind of wander back and forth. But I think in a couple of years we'll have a better answer, and hopefully we'll be able to strengthen the biology that supports the decision here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all so much. And thank you for the discussion. There are no other questions. We are adjourned.